It is said that the soul manifests itself in every corner of the body. But there is a place, hidden from the eyes of the modern world and forgotten, where the spirit condenses, boils, and transforms. It is neither in the head nor in the heart. It's located at the very center of your body, behind your navel. Have you ever felt an inexplicable warmth in your belly when you're inspired? A vibrating heart when you're nervous? A powerful expansion when you sense a truth? This is no coincidence. At this very point is an energy center known to the ancients as the cauldron of inner fire, the subtle furnace where your life energy matures, is refined, and elevated. Ancient cultures did not ignore this point. They revered it. In the Taoist tradition, they called it the lower dantian, the field of the elixir. Yogis associated it with the Manipura chakra, the center of power. In inner alchemy, it was home to the sacred fire that transforms the lead of instinct into the gold of consciousness. And you carry it with you every second of your life. But in modern times, this wisdom has been forgotten. The body is reduced to muscles and bones, the shoulder to an insignificant scar. And yet there is a door, a lattice in physical time through which you can awaken your creative energy, activate your sacred will, and transform your experience from within. This video is an invitation to remember this forgotten center, to return to the fire of origin, to breathe inward, and awaken the inner cauldron. We are not talking about general anatomy here, but about sacred anatomy. We are not exploring what science sees, but what the soul knows. We'll explore the spiritual significance of the abdominal center, its role in conscious creation, its function in energetic healing, and its power as a center of manifestation. You'll discover why your belly isn't just a birth defect, but a living gateway to mystery. How to activate its power through breath, intention, and awareness. This is a journey to the energetic core where life began, where you were nourished before you could breathe, where spirit incarnates. There, where, if you know how, you can ignite the fire that heals, creates, and transforms. For behind your protection lies more than just a wound. There is a sacred furnace, and you have the spark. Since the dawn of humanity, wise cultures have understood that the body is not just flesh, bones, and blood. It is a microcosm of the universe, a living temple where the elements converge to form the incarnated soul. And at the center of this temple is a power point that is worshipped, invoked, and utilized as the true core of transformation. The energetic space behind the umbrigo. The Taoist sages were perhaps the ones who mapped this area in the most detail. They called it Xia Dan Tian, literally lower cinnabar field, an alchemical reference to the fire that is activated in the lower chest area. This was not just an energy point, but the inner laboratory where spiritual immortality matured. Here, Jing, the life essence, was cultivated to transform it into qi and then into shen, the spiritual light. Without strengthening this cauldron, it was said no spiritual development could be sustained. The yogis of the Indian subcontinent, however, called it manipura, which means the shining jewel. It is the third chakra, associated with the element of fire, personal power, will, and the processing not only of food but also of feelings and experiences. Manipura is the seat of Agni, the inner fire that consumes ignorance, apathy, and fear, transforming them into clarity, direction, and conscious action. When this chakra burns brightly, the individual becomes the designer of their own destiny, the master of their reality, and the ruler of their energy. In European alchemy, this zone was equated with the crucible, the furnace in which the alchemist placed his impure metals to be purified by fire. The digestive furnace was the inner symbol of energy transformation, and it was said that whoever managed to maintain constant warmth in their chest could initiate the process of inner transmutation and transform their life energy into philosophical gold and awakened consciousness. Even in Mesoamerican shamanic traditions, the navel held deep symbolism. It was the center of power, the connection point to Mother Earth and the ancestors, the place from which energy emanated to manifest, heal, and protect. The ancient Nahuas said that Teotl, the sacred force that creates and transforms, resides in the navel of the universe and also in human beings. Interestingly, the navel is also our first connection to life, the umbilical cord that connects us to the mother's body. It is the place where we receive nutrients, oxygen, and life itself before we have lungs or words. In this sense, it's not just a scar. It's a sign of our origins, a portal to the cosmic matrix that shaped us. But over time, this wisdom was forgotten. Rationalism has broken down the body into systems and organs, and the energy center of the ribcage has been reduced to the intestines and abdominal muscles. No one talks about the fire that burns there anymore. No one teaches how to revive it, and yet it remains there, asleep but not dead, waiting to be touched by sacred attention. Recognizing the navel as a cauldron means reuniting body and spirit. It means understanding that its center lies not in the head or even in the chest, but in that silent core where the spirit incarnates, where lived experience is processed, and where the true power of creation arises. Those who awaken this center are not only healed but also stronger. They begin to radiate a different presence, a magnetic attraction, a clear will, a flame that does not consume but illuminates. Beyond the navel lies the furnace of the ancients, and those who light it remember who they are. Not all fires go out with flames. Some, like the one located below the navel, penetrate the deepest silence of the body, and their warmth doesn't embrace, but awakens. For those who walk the path of consciousness, learning to activate this fire is not just a technique, but an initiation. To understand how this energetic cauldron works, we must abandon the superficial view of the body, for what happens in the lower navel is not merely physiological. It is a dimensional interface between the physical, emotional, and spiritual. This center, which we can also call the core of life force, is like an inner greenhouse where the energy we receive from food, air, emotions, and even thoughts is transformed. Activation begins with conscious abdominal breathing. Most adults breathe shallowly, rapidly, and thoracically. However, the body is designed so that the deepest breath occurs right there in the rib cage. During natural breathing, the diaphragm expands downward, gently pressing on the internal organs and massaging the energetic zone of the dantian, or manipura, creating movement, flow, and warmth. However, simply moving the air isn't enough. The key is to focus your attention. Each breath must be accompanied by a visualization, a clear intention. I ignite my fire. You can imagine a sphere of golden light expanding and contracting, or a small flame that feeds with each breath, as if gently blowing on living arms. This inner fire is not a metaphor. With a little practice, you'll feel a warm, pulsating, almost magnetic sensation. A subtle pressure that doesn't hurt, but is intrusive. It's the sign that your consciousness has penetrated this dormant core and life energy has begun to circulate. Some ancient masters referred to this point as the inner sun. They said that just as the outer sun gives life to plants, so the sun within the breast gives life to the incarnated soul. And when this sun is activated, a spontaneous purification process begins. The mind calms down, fear dissolves, doubt disappears, because all of this is literally cooked in this energetic furnace. This process also regulates the balance between giving and taking. People with an unlit furnace generally feel powerless, have low self-esteem, and react emotionally. Those who activate it, however, rediscover their inner center. And from there, they connect with the world, not out of necessity, but out of presence. It is important to emphasize that this center is not reserved for spiritual masters or initiates in monasteries. It's active in every person, but it lies dormant. And by working with it, you don't become someone new. You become who you truly are, before the noise of the world throws you off balance. Awakening the fire isn't just about feeling the heat. It's about restoring the inner power of emotional processing, focused will, and energetic manifestation. When the fire burns, actions take root. Your words have a direction, and your decisions no longer depend on external factors. The journey to activating the navel center is the return home. It means no longer circling the world, but revolving around yourself, like a sun that finally remembers to shine from within. Once the furnace behind the navel is ignited, nothing remains as it was. The body changes, the mind realigns, and the soul begins to speak more clearly. What once seemed like a technique becomes a constant presence. A flame that burns not to consume, but to purify, reveal, and guide. The inner fire, like that of the ancient alchemists, is not condemned in its crucible. Its nature is ascending, like fire that strives for the sky. Therefore, once activated, this fire must be directed. If it stagnates, it can lead to imbalances. However, when it ascends properly, it begins to travel through the subtle pathways of the energy body, touching every center and awakening its dormant power. The first natural station of this ascent is the solar plexus. Although it is located near the cauldron, it is a separate area, the seat of the ego, of self-esteem, of self-definition. When fire touches you, it doesn't destroy you, it transforms you. Insecurities begin to crumble, masks begin to shatter, and an authentic will is ignited, a clarity of purpose that no longer requires external validation. From there, the energy follows its path to the heart, the true altar of the human spirit. When the navel fire ascends to the heart center, something extraordinary happens. Desire merges with compassion, will with empathy. It no longer acts solely for goals, but for truth. The fire in the chest becomes a flame of love that can heal old wounds, open closed spaces, and sweeten action. And as the ascent continues, the next threshold is the throat, the center of expression. Here, the energy of the cauldron transforms into a verb, a creative word. What you communicate arises not from a reaction, but from a connection with your deepest truth. Your voice sounds different. Your word builds up instead of destroying. It becomes a sacred instrument. Eventually, the energy can reach the intercegio or even the crown. There, the fire not only illuminates the spirit, purifies it, it dissolves mental rigidity, inherited beliefs, and artificially created fears. What was once conditioned thinking becomes intuitive insight. It's as if a tower illuminates a room that has been dark for years. And in that brightness, you finally remember. You remember who you are, what you wanted to do, what you must leave behind, what deserves to be honored. But this fire doesn't just transform the subtle level. It also affects everyday life. People who activate their navel center experience tangible changes, improved digestion and overall vitality, greater emotional balance, less reactivity, ability to stay centered amidst chaos, sense of quiet confidence and clear direction, natural magnetic attraction, effortless, more intuition and spontaneous creativity. None of this is a product of chance. It is the direct result of living from the center, from the inner fire that orders chaos, that transforms density into light. This turns your body into an active temple of consciousness. There's a universal principle that says, what isn't directed will dissipate. That's exactly what happens with the cauldron's energy. If you don't direct it, it seeps into impulses, wandering thoughts, and fatigue. But if you learn to maintain and increase it, it will become your strongest ally. Then you won't have to chase after life. Life comes to you, for when your fire burns, all truth is concentrated in your center. This is the power of the cauldron behind the shadow. It's not just life energy. It's the living reminder that you were created to shine. From the center, awakening the cauldron behind the shadow is not an isolated mystical experience, nor is it a practice reserved for ascetics or monks from another era. It's a way of life, a way of walking through the world with your feet on the ground and the fire in your chest, a silent commitment to inhabit yourself from the center, not from the periphery. Here, I share concrete practices and essential principles with you to bring this fire into your everyday life. Because true transformation, it doesn't happen in extraordinary moments. It happens in the way you breathe, the way you speak. You have the choice, and you feel it in your everyday life. First, breathe from your chest, not your head. Sounds simple, but that's not it. We live in a culture that has separated us from natural breathing. So every morning, before you speak to the world, talk to your kettle. Gently place your hands on your stomach, directly below your shoulders. Breathe in slowly. Breathe in the air, like a still globe that you're inflating. Breathe out and feel the fire spreading. Do this for 5 minutes when you wake up, not to achieve results, but to remind yourself where you are. And who is that? Second, stoke the fire, but don't overfeed it. Your vital center needs energy to stay active, but not all foods are nutritious. Be careful what you eat, not just with the mouth, but with the eyes, the ears. Caution. Avoid overstimulation, constant swinging, the information that flows out. Every impression is fuel, and your boiler processes everything. Either there's light, or it turns off. Third, start from the center. Imagine that you're not starting from your feet, but from this energetic point in your chest. Feel your body organizing itself around this axis. Do this when you walk down the street, when you cook, when you speak. Creates a deep connection, a feeling of magnetic presence. You're there, but with roots, with gravity, with fire. Wednesday, inhabit the emotions in the cauldron. When a strong emotion overwhelms you, anger, sadness, fear, don't react immediately. Hold it to your chest. Breathe there. Visualize it dissolving in this inner alchemical furnace. Emotions are not mistakes. They are raw material, and you have the fire to transform them. Fifth, create from within, not from fear. Every truly powerful action springs from stillness. Before making important decisions, starting projects, or socializing, return to your center. Breathe there and ask yourself, does this action stem from my inner fire or my need? The answer will guide you like an infallible magician. Living from the cauldron means living with meaning, roots, and clarity. You don't have to change your entire life. You just have to remember this sacred place within you, with every breath, every time you make a decision. Because when your energy comes from your navel and not from your ego, everything you do vibrates with power and truth. The spiritual path doesn't always lead upward. Sometimes it begins by penetrating consciousness deep within the body, where the soul still remembers. Because before we thought with our minds, we already felt in our chests. Before we had ideas, we had instincts. And in this center, where it all began, the original fire of your existence still burns. Today you remembered that beyond your navel lies more than just tissues and organs. There is an energetic matrix, a sacred cauldron, a forge where life energy becomes conscious creation. This center requires no beliefs, only presence. It doesn't require complex techniques, only sincerity. It is not reserved for the spiritual, for in truth, it is the foundation of all awakened life. Breathing from there is more than an exercise. It's a way to return to yourself, choosing every day to view your body as a temple and your energy as art. It means no longer looking outside for what can only be illuminated within. It means knowing that everything you need, clarity, strength, guidance, healing, comes from the sacred point between your doorways. The ancients knew this, and deep down you know it too, because you felt it in moments of deep stillness, intense emotions, and groundless intuitions. This feeling of warmth, expansion, and inner vibration is not a symptom. It's a sign, a reminder that the fire isn't lost. It's just waiting for your attention, your intention, your relief. No matter your story, your wounds, your doubts, the cauldron doesn't judge. It simply receives, transforms, and renews. You can come there with fear, with fatigue, with disorder. And when you breathe consciously, it gives you back presence, strength, and clarity. This is how true alchemy works. The world doesn't change outside of you, it changes you. And ever since, the world has been changing on its own. If this sounds familiar to you today, don't miss this interesting idea. Put this knowledge into practice. Let this fire guide you. Breathe in, fill your chest with light, and let this flame remind you of your deepest truth. You are the alchemist. You are the melting pot, and you are the matter that burns to be reborn. Thank you for opening your consciousness to this journey. Share this with anyone who wants to ignite their fire. Sign up to further explore the mysteries of body, mind, and the universe. And next time, don't inhale quickly. Do it as if you were letting air out of your inner cauldron, as someone who honors their inner self, as someone who finally remembered that fire was always at home.